Welcome into today's Sports Stove podcast presented by Skull Candy. And today we have a very special guest with us. He is a mixed martial art heavyweight, 6-3 pro record, all 6 wins coming by first round finishes, a good mixture of knockouts and submissions. According to Tapology, he's the number 3 pro heavyweight in Kentucky, number 17 pro heavyweight in the U.S. Southeast region, and 61st overall in the United States of America. Joining us today, Harry the Hurricane Hunsucker. Harry, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you guys for having me, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Man, I'm excited to talk some mixed martial arts with you. Of course, in the UFC has some big fights coming up. We'll talk about that here in a few minutes. But wanted to kind of start off with you. Of course, you've got a fight coming up. We'll talk about this more in a moment as well. February the 27th in Bowling Green, Kentucky against Corey Moon. And for more information on that, you can go to hrmma.com. That's scrolling across the bottom of the screen. If you're viewing this on YouTube, you can see that on there throughout the interview. And I figured this is a great sponsor for us today because you're someone who crushes skulls. And so one of our sponsors in this podcast is Skull Candy. And discover life at full volume with headphones, earbuds, speakers, and more. Skull Candy is your one-stop shop for new music, culture, and audio built to #StayLoud. And there will be a link on the comments on YouTube and on the podcast notes on all the podcast platforms where you can click and go to skullcandy.com and shop. If you use that link, they'll know that we sent you, so please do that. All right, let's get started. You were on November. You were on the Dana White's Contender Series. Big fight there. Me and my kids, I got 2 boys, 12 and 9, and we watched that fight twice. We watched it back in November when it aired, and we watched it this week to get ready for the interview today. Tell me, what was the experience like in that event?
So I guess I should start with the lead up to the event, like how it happened, how it all played out. Is that that would be the best starting point, right? So I fought October 17th, and I defended my regional title here in Kentucky. I had an impressive win there, and the promoter, Hard Rock with HRMMA, he's like, stay ready. Chris Lights Out Lytle. Do you know him?
Yeah.
He works with B2 Digital. That's the series that I'm champion for. Chris Lytle told me the same thing. And then my manager, Pat Wilson, with Rise Sports Management Group, he also manages a guy gaining a lot of popularity locally and worldwide, Nathan Manis. He just got the performance of the night bonus in the UFC, and he's 2-0 in the UFC now. So they're all like, stay ready, you're going to get a call. And so I get a call on Halloween on October 31st with the offer to step up on short notice to fight Jared Vandera on the Contender Series. And, obviously that's not something that you turn down. I'm not going to lie, I had slacked up in my training a little bit just because I didn't expect it to be that quick of a turnaround. You know what I mean? So, we make the decision. We're like, hey, we'll do it. And so we commit to it on Halloween, and we don't really hear anything back that day. So I go to sleep that night. I'm freaking out. A huge dream is coming to fruition for me. Like that, like at the snap of a finger, so it's crazy. And so Sunday, we're like, so maybe it was Sunday. So basically what happens is I can't say anything. I've got to keep it under wraps. And I didn't even know that Vandera's side had agreed to the fight or that it was official or anything until people started tagging me on Facebook because they were having a fight that night, and I think it was that Halloween night. I think it was Anderson Silva versus Uriah Hall. That night was the night that they made the announcement, and they, it popped up across the bottom of the screen. I was on the bottom, Dana White's Contender Series Season 4, Week 8, and I started people were like, when were you going to tell us, man? And I was like, I really didn't even know it was official yet, honestly. So then, I mean, obviously my phone started blowing up, and I got the screenshot of it, and I posted and I let people know. I was like, hey, it doesn't matter. 4 days notice, anytime, anywhere, any place. And anybody that knows me too knows that over the past couple of years, I'll fight anybody. I'll go anywhere to fight them pretty much. You know what I mean? As long as my coach and my manager agree on it. And then it's on after that, win or lose. And, so Sunday we go fill out paperwork so that we can get the trip going, and we train a little bit with me, my coach, and my corners. And I get done training, and I've got like 4 or 5 missed calls from the UFC and from my manager. They're like, "Hey, we have to have you on a plane like right now." So we get done training at 1, and we're in the airport by 4 o'clock. And I have about an hour drive from the place we were training at to my house, and then back to the airport too. So, I mean, I had about 2 hours to get ready for the trip. And then next thing you know, me and my brother, Jesse, he's not my brother, but I mean, we're pretty much brothers now. He's one of my main training partners. He's my mitt guy, and he's my guy that keeps my head straight. And then my coach Seals, who is the mad scientist that has made a huge difference in my game over the past couple of years. We're in the airport on our way to Vegas, and we fly all day, and touch down in Vegas at like 1 o'clock in the morning on what was it, Sunday night now, and then go right in, get COVID tested, get quarantined, and then right into the mix as soon as that comes back.
What was the had you known enough about him before the fight, or I mean, how much time did you have to really work him?
I mean, I don't really watch the guys. I mean, I'm just, going to be honest. I don't really watch them just because I'll look at their fight like here and there, but I'm not the guy that studies their tape. I let my coach do it for me and tell me what to do. So we really got 3 sessions in training for him. And I went from 0 to fight week. So then you have to take those training sessions very lightly. You know what I mean? So I didn't really get to do any hard cardio, get my lungs reincorporated, and I paid for it in the fight, as you could tell. But we got to train like 3 times to game plan to beat him.
I mean, in the first 2.5, maybe 3 minutes of that fight, there were a couple times it looked like he was going to drop. I mean, you landed some big shots.
Yeah, that was the big thing. I know that. I was there on short notice. I knew that I had taken a small break from running my cardio, conditioning, and then even sparring. My sparring wasn't on. So I had to, I had to go in there and go for broke. That was the thing. I was going to go out with my shield or on it. And, I dropped some bombs on him. I cracked him good. And I feel like I made that fight happen. You know what I mean? If it wouldn't have, if I wouldn't have threw those bombs, it wouldn't have been the exciting fight that it was.
What was there a moment where you thought you had him?
I think I've lost you on the audio.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now? Let's see. All right. I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? How about now? All right. So we got some technical difficulties. He's going to go out and try to come back on here in just a moment. We're doing some phone commercials here. Can you hear me now? Stuff. Another one of our sponsors. He's coming.
Sorry about that. Yeah, sorry. I don't know what happened there. It was just like your audio dropped all of a sudden, and I couldn't hear you.
No problem. Can you hear everything fine now?
Yeah, we're good. I apologize.
Okay. No, that's fine. I was just asking, was there a moment where you felt like you had him, where you thought it's over, I'm going to win?
I never go into a fight expecting to lose. You know what I mean? My plan was to knock him out or hopefully to get him on the ground and get the win. I knew that it was a hard fight. I knew that he had been preparing for it and training for it. And I knew that the deck was highly stacked against me, but that's the way that it is in fighting. I think all the time. I mean, you never get it laid all out to you. It's never a give me fight, even if you fight somebody that maybe has a record that's not the best, which sometimes you have to do regionally. You know what I mean? I know a lot of guys. Um, a lot of guys knock that when a guy fights a guy that maybe he's got a way better record than, but sometimes regionally that's the best that you can get, man.
Yeah.
So I knew the deck was stacked against me, but I definitely was going in there to win. I was not going in there to take a loss and ruin my dreams. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Did you get a chance to talk with Dana? Was there a good conversation or any conversation with him?
Well, I mean, you saw all the conversation that I had with him whenever you were watching the thing. So basically what happens is when you come through those doors, man, it's like you're walking into the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? It's the biggest level that you can ever be on outside of being in the UFC. So I walk through the doors and I'm like, holy cow. And I'm running around the cage and I look over and I see the top of Dana's head. Like he's sitting behind a glass shield, because of COVID. And I'm like, I got to say something. So I turn around and I'm like, hey, Dana, 4 days notice. And I like hold up 4 fingers to him. And I guess you saw that on the film if you were paying attention.
Yeah. What's the Apex like? I'm assuming that was your first time there. Was that your first time at the Apex?
Internet better now?
There we go. I hear you. Can you hear me? Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? We're going to get this figured out. The podcast version of this will edit all this out for everybody. We are also brought to you by Blue Coolers. Blue Coolers, they provide high-quality Rotomold 10-day ice coolers. That's quite the deal. All right, let's see if we got them back.
Is my connection any better now? I'm getting ready to pull over, so my connection is better. I apologize. I'm on my way to training right now.
Yeah, most of the time it's really, really solid. Then all of a sudden it just jumps out.
Yeah. So I'll pull over here in just a second so that I don't jump out on you anymore.
No problem. Was that your first time at the
Apex? Where were we? I apologize.
That's fine. What's the Apex like? Testing 1, 2, 3.
There we go.
Okay. The Apex. Tell us about the Apex. What's it like?
So the coolest part for me is like as soon as you come in the door there, they've got the entire Ultimate Fighter like layout there. They've got all of the seasons of Tough on the wall, and all of the fighters have autographed it. So like I'm looking up and here's some of my heroes in MMA, like Forrest Griffin, Nate Diaz, Uriah Faber's season on there. And then they've got a number of UFC belts that have been donated to them. Like they've got, I don't know if they've been donated or purchased that won them, but you've got like Jens Pulver's belt sitting there. You've got like the very first UFC heavyweight championship, Mark Coleman's sitting there. Super cool.
What would you describe your fighting style to be like? Because your wins have come, you've got knockouts and you've got submissions, different kinds of submissions as well. So what would be your fight style that you'd say?
I would say that my fight style is definitely kickboxing and jujitsu. I mean, I'm a third-degree black belt in Taekwondo, which a lot of my striking comes from that. And then I've studied kickboxing and Muay Thai for years. So those are,
We lost them again. If you're watching this on YouTube, go to the Apple or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts and catch the whole audio un without distraction, I suppose. In there, we got him back. He's coming back. There he is.
I I apologize, man. I'm trying to find a spot where my service is good. I'm driving down the interstate here. But I would say that my fighting style is, kickboxing and jujitsu. I'm a brown belt in jujitsu as well, and I would say kickboxing and jujitsu is my style. If I was to give myself a style.
How do you weigh the importance of being an entertainer versus just being a fighter?
Um, Well, I run a martial arts school. I'm a martial arts instructor by day, so I know that a lot of guys have to create a persona, and they have to create that guy that people want to see fight. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
For me though, I don't know. I try to be genuine and show that I'm a hard worker. And I think those two things say a lot. And then at the end of the day, the fighting is the thing that talks the most. You know what I mean? I've heard this quote a bunch of times. Some guys can talk the talk, and some guys can walk the walk, and then some guys are just too busy walking to pay attention to what anybody's saying. You know what I mean? And that's the way that I try to be, man. I try not to focus too much on what everybody says and all the, I try not to get caught up in the smack talk and stuff like that. I just try to be a good fighter, man.
Some of this was covered on the Contender Series, but not everybody listening to this had seen that. Tell us a little bit about how you got into mixed martial arts, kind of what it was that drove you there, and then especially what eventually put you to the point where you decided this is what I want to do as far as, as a career.
Sure. So I got I've always been interested in fighting. I mean, anybody that knows me in school knows that I was always fighting somebody. I was always in trouble or suspended or meeting somebody to get into it. Just because that's how kind of how we came up from where I'm from, man. And I know that I'm not from a big city or anything. I'm from, a pretty country spot, but we were fighters, man. That was what a lot of people did. So, now I guess came naturally partially. And then, I had a friend, Shadow, who was going down to these fights and fighting and watching them and stuff. And I was like, well, man, Shadow's doing it. I have to try it because he was a good friend of mine. And so I got into it and I trained for 2 weeks and I took my first fight after 2 weeks as an amateur, and I got lucky and won. That's sheer luck. And I mean, sheer luck in the fact that I was like, I'm not losing today kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I fought that fight, and then 2 weeks later, I fought again, and I got my arm broken, I got my jaw fractured, and then I got choked unconscious. I got choked out at that fight, and then I was like, well, if I'm going to do this, I should probably start training. So I started dabbling in training after that, and I didn't fight for another year and a half. And when I did, I racked off 3, 4 wins in a row as an amateur. I think 3 as an amateur. And then I got the opportunity to fight for my first title, and I fought a guy named Tim Dunn. And I don't know, it was just I was young. I got a little cocky from picking up a few wins, and I had to pay for it. You know what I mean? And Tim Dunn was a great fighter, man. And I don't think I really got serious about it until I had 2 fights as a pro. Honestly, I mean, I had a couple pro fights before I really started taking it serious. Because there's a difference between amateur serious and professional serious. You know what I mean? And like at the beginning of me going pro, I was trying to do it because people kind of expected me to, and then because trying to like trying to get the way to get it across, but like it just felt like I was supposed to. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But then, like, after I fought Dontel Mays, that's when I really got serious about fighting. Dontel's in the UFC now. So, I mean, my last two losses are to guys in the UFC, you know. So I fought Dontel, and I was like, man, and I took the fight with him just because, like, he had, like, kind of called me out locally and as an amateur. And I was like, dude, I'm going pro. Whenever you go pro, call me and we'll make it happen. And I was his first pro fight because I'm a man of my word. You know what I mean? Um, and you know, the big thing for me then was like I found out that I could hang with guys like that, and I never thought that I could. I never believed in myself on that level. A lot of people around me believed in me, but I didn't have that self confidence. So after that fight, I got serious. I racked off 5 wins in a row, and I won the first ever Hard Rock MMA heavyweight title. That's the biggest promotion in our region. I'm their first professional heavyweight champ, and I'm the first. I'm the first guy to hold that belt as an amateur and a professional as well. So that was a huge deal for me. And then I defended it against Jordan Mitchell. COVID happened and slowed a lot of things down, you know. So it was almost a year later when I fought again, and then 2 weeks later, I'm, at the Contender Series.
So the fight coming up in February, what's the plan as far as attendance for people? It looks like it said limited tickets available.
Yeah, so they have, I think, 200 or 250 tickets available to the public, and of course, that on top of that, add in fighters and corners, and the rest of it will be pay-per-view buys.
Corey Moon's who you're fighting. What do you know about Corey? What kind of
You
fights?
know, the biggest thing about Corey Moon, man, is that he's a big old bear. You know what I mean? He's a big guy. He's husky. He's in law enforcement. So he's going to be a gritty guy, and he looks like he's got pretty good boxing and some decent kicks. And I mean, that's what I think his strong suit's going to be, is his hands. You know what I mean? And he looks like he punches pretty hard. So, but I can too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm a yellow belt, so I'll fight you. No, I'm just kidding. I won't fight anybody. But
Are you? You really got a yellow belt though?
Back in high school, I was in a class for a short period of time, mostly doing more jujitsu kind of stuff. But I loved it. I just didn't stick with it for very long. Looking to get my kids into some stuff here once
Sure.
the COVID stuff passes.
Where are you guys at?
We're in Lexington, Kentucky.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I'm sitting on the side of the road in Lexington right now.
Nice.
Yeah.
We could have done it in person.
Right.
What goes into a full fight prep?
Diet is number one. Diet is everything. It aids in your recovery. It aids in how you feel every day. And then it keeps the weight down. I mean, I'm a heavyweight, but I still like to fight at like 240. That's where I'm comfortable at. And out of camp, I'm normally like 260, 265. So I do lose some weight just because I feel better there. So diet's number one. You like to start like anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks out. I usually do like a 10 to 12 week camp, if possible. And then, lots of conditioning, making sure you keep your strength up. Obviously, lots of technical work, game planning to fight that specific fighter. And then, you got to throw your sparring in there. You have to be doing that.
How hard is it to get for your coaches to get video on guys in the regional circuit?
I mean, it's pretty easy around here, honestly, just because on regional circuits now, that's how they get a lot of their new fans, and that's how they create buzz, is by building guys up. And the way that we do that now is YouTube and social media. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, everything's pretty readily available, in this part of the country anyways, where I normally fight.
when I started watching UFC back, I mean, it would have been like early 2000s. And you had to go to Blockbuster and rent the videos and stuff like that
I
to
remember
see
Blockbuster. Yeah.
them. And so now it's so readily. I mean, between YouTube, social media, all these kinds of things, there definitely is a lot more options to get the sport out there. Um, let's talk a little bit about the upcoming UFC fights. January is a big month for the UFC, and obviously your goal is to
Yep.
get there and stick there in the UFC. Tomorrow night, we're recording on Friday night. Tomorrow night is the first card led by Max Holloway and Calvin Cater. I think that's how you say his name. I said it different ways a couple
I
different
think
times.
it's Qatar or something
Qatar,
like that.
okay.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
And then Carlos Condit, Matt Brown, they're kind of a big part of that fight as
Woo.
well. Well, that one got a reaction, so let's talk about that one. Condit and Brown.
Yeah. I mean, those two guys right there, I mean, I've been following forever. Matt Brown actually comes to the Hard Rock fights. He's got guys he corners at the fights that I fight at. So I mean, Matt, and we've implemented a lot of Matt Brown's tie sweeps and elbows into my game, specifically. So I mean, I have a ton of respect for him, and he is a killer too, man. And then Carlos Condit, the same thing, man. I mean, I've been a fan of his for years. He was an interim champion for the UFC. I mean, he is that's a great fight. And I know people think that both of those guys are kind of on like the downward trend now, that they're on the outskirts of their career, man. But that right there will be a good fight. Like, it's definitely going to happen.
They look pretty pumped
I
for
would, I would like to see I'd like to see Condit win that, just because I like Condit a lot. Like, I've always, tended to gravitate towards his fighting style. I like him a lot.
Condit's a slight favorite for that fight. You got a guy like Max Holloway coming into a fight. He's been around for a little bit. Well, both of these guys, him and Qatar, have both been around for a while. Both of them about 25 fights in the UFC or professional fights. What is it? Can you learn anything from the smaller guys' fights, or is it strictly kind of focused in on more of the light heavyweights and heavyweights to kind of do your game?
No, definitely. I mean, anytime a guy's doing something right, there's something to learn there. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I think that one of the big things that people are talking about with Holloway now is how he's not sparring for camps like he did when he fought Volkanovski last time, the rematch of that fight. He did all of his training over Zoom because Hawaii is pretty locked down. Due to COVID, and like, I mean, they're locked down heavy. So, you know, he's being innovative. A lot of guys are easing back their sparring now, just because, every punch you take in training is one less that you can take it in your career. You know what I mean? And it takes out a lot of unnecessary brain trauma. And that's one of the things that I like about, the guys. I'm actually headed to train with what we've kind of deemed as the Kentucky Fighters Group. Here, it's just a bunch of guys that train at different spots all over the state, and we get together every Friday night at 8 p.m. to get that cross training in with other guys, and we're bringing in some of the better up and coming fighters in the state right now. I mean, we got Brian McDowell, who just won on UFC Fight Pass, training there. Ruben Wars come out. My brother Trent Knott, who was supposed to make his pro debut pretty recently, he actually got in a car accident, and he's kind of sidelined for a while. And I mean, we've got a who's who of young up and coming hungry guys that we're meeting up and putting in work. And who else to take tips from but those guys who are doing it on the biggest level, like Holloway, like I said, I've picked up stuff from Matt Brown. I mean, he's a 170 guy. So any guy that's doing something right, there's something to, pick up from him. I mean, the rise of Conor McGregor. How many guys do you see fighting like him now? You know what I mean? Picking up that style. And I even use some like that high guard that Conor uses, where he keeps that left hand extra high. That keeps you out of trouble from the overhand right. You know what I mean? When that comes through, you keep that arm out a little better,
Wednesday night, an exciting midweek fight. Well, let's stop. First of all, Saturday is the first time the UFC is going to be on ABC ever. That ABC's held, and it's the first time ABC's had any kind of fight on since I forget when it was. It's been a long time, 2002 maybe, something
Sure.
like that. So that's a pretty big deal for really mixed martial arts continuing to grow. It's becoming one of the more popular sports in America. And it seems like the more visibility it gets, obviously, the more people are going to get into it and like it. I think you've always had
That's one thing. I actually just heard that today, that it's on ABC. Is that on like cable television, or do they have an app
no, it's
that you
just
have
on
to purchase?
ABC. Yeah, just
Really? Okay, that's cool. Sorry
yeah.
to butt in there. I
No,
just
that's fine.
yeah.
Yeah, and I know. I forget who was talking about that. I guess it was probably, I think it was Ariel Helwani this week. Him and DC were talking about that on their show. Just the magnitude of this being where it's anybody can watch it from anywhere, and because even the
That's
fights on,
huge.
yeah, even the fights on like ESPN Plus. I mean, a lot of people still get to see them, but it is, you got to pay for ESPN Plus in order to see it and that kind of stuff. And so just being on network television, that's a big deal.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
Wednesday night, a rare midweek fight. Michael Chiesa and Neil Magny going at it. Right now, Magny is the slight favorite in this fight. What do you think of these two guys, and what do you think that fight can produce?
I like Chiesa a lot, man, but I would probably have to go with Magny on that, man. I like him a lot. He's a super talented fighter. Um, they're not two guys that I'm extremely knowledgeable about, honestly, but I think that Magny is the smarter fighter. So I would have to probably pull for him on that fight.
Explain what you mean by smarter. Is it smarter as far as he doesn't take shots, smarter as he
Um,
reads things?
he
What would be smart?
he's just his fight IQ is really good. He's good at not taking damage, and that's one of the things that a lot of guys, you know, um, that last a long time in the sport are good at. You know what I mean? Not taking damage, being a very defensive fighter like John Jones, man. Sometimes John Jones fights are kind of boring, honestly, but he's had a super long career, and he might be my age now. You know what I mean? And could go 5 more years, 10 more years. Just because he doesn't take damage, man. Damn it, not taking damage leads to a longer career as a fighter.
Then the big fight that most people were excited for. Of course, you had the one fight that got canceled that was supposed to be on the card. And then it just slipped my mind who it was. Oh, Ed Edwards.
Oh, Leon Edwards and
Yeah,
Khamzat Chimaev.
yeah. That
Yeah,
fight was
dude,
supposed
that
to be
they
in March.
rebooked that from they rebooked it for March, but yeah, that would have been a good fight, man. That Chimaev guy came out of nowhere and is a monster.
I'm looking forward to that fight. That's going to be a good
Yeah,
one.
for sure. Yeah.
Saturday the 23rd, Dustin Poirier, Conor McGregor rematch. Poirier is a different fighter now than he was when they fought the first time. Conor making his appearance again for the first time. He fought once last year, wanted to fight more and didn't work out.
Yeah.
What does Conor bring to the sport, not just to the UFC, but to the sport as a whole? What is what he does that makes everything special about him?
Star power, man. He's polarizing. I mean, you got people that he's almost got a religious following. I hate to put it in that perspective, but I mean, you got some guys that are like, they love Conor McGregor, whether he wins or loses, man. And every time he fights, it's a huge spectacle. I mean, he's got Ireland behind him. And then, now he's kind of calmed down with his crazy antics that made him popular, because he doesn't have to do that anymore, because people are going to watch the show regardless now. But he brought he made it a spectacle, man, and that's why you see so many guys trying to do that now. They're trying to make the WWE appearance, and then get in the real fight. you know,
Does Poirier stand a chance against McGregor, you think?
I think Poirier beats him.
Really?
Yeah, that's. I mean, I I mean, it's a close fight, man, but the longer that fight goes, the more it tilts towards Poirier. You know what I mean? I mean, look at, when Nate and Connor fought, um, he started getting winded.
Yeah.
Um, the Mayweather fight, which I know that's a totally different thing, but he started getting winded a little bit.
Right.
I think that Poirier could beat him.
Hmm.
Now he's got to watch Connor, man, in the first round, definitely, just because of his explosive knockout power, dude. If he gets your chin, you probably not going to have a good night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I am pulling for Poirier, and the biggest reason, um, whenever I was making my professional debut, I actually went to American Top Team to take some classes and train there for like 4 days. And I promise you, I'm not joking. Every single time I went in there, Poirier was in there before everybody, and he was there when everybody was leaving.
Hmm.
And I mean, he was living in there. That guy I mean, he's just got extreme work ethic. And then I like him a lot just because he's a clean cut, nice guy. And he's a workhorse, man, and I got a lot of respect for him. Not that I don't have respect for Connor. I just, I'm pulling for Poirier to get a belt. You know what I mean? To get
Yeah.
I know he's been interim champ, but I want to see him get the real deal.
The other fight on that card that a lot of people are looking forward to is Dan Hooker and Michael Chandler. Hooker, the slight favorite in that fight. Any experience with Chandler or any of those guys?
I've watched Chandler fight a lot actually in Bellator, man, and I like him. But it's interesting to see how guys, make that crossover from the UFC. Because sometimes, Bellator's been known to give people some fights, and I don't think that Chandler's had that because like he's fought, the best that Bellator's got, and that's why he's like, hey, it's time for me to make the move. So I don't think I could make a call on that one, man, because
Yeah.
Hooker's a beast, and I don't know what to expect from Chandler. You know what I mean? It's like his first fight all over again, even though he's got many fights under his belt. I don't want to make a call on that one, honestly, just because
Sure.
I don't want to. I don't know. I want to be surprised with like some of them. You just want the surprise. You know what I mean? Like every fight, you got a guy that you're pulling for, and then some of them, I want somebody to, I just want to see somebody impress me and win, man. Some fights, it's just about watching. You know what I mean? Some
Yeah.
fights, when you feel really strongly about the fighters. Like whenever I watch fights with my buddies, man, some of them I'll be up, bouncing around, freaking out, like whenever Cowboy and Connor fought, I
Mm.
knew that Connor was going to come in and be a beast, but I wanted to see Cowboy get the W, man, real bad. So like I was all to pieces watching that fight.
Tell me, we're almost done here. Tell me what, because you right now of course, the two main uh, organizations would be Bellator and UFC. There are plenty of other ones out there right now. That seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, the main goal for most fighters is get to the UFC. That's like the top of the top right there. Obviously,
Yeah,
I would assume you wouldn't turn down Bellator if they came calling, but what is it about those organizations that make them special, each in their own?
money. I mean, seriously. I mean, that's what it is, man. Ain't no, there's a lot of guys that are fighting because it's fun. I'm fighting for two reasons, man. Number one is because it provides more financial stability, and then number two, man, there was a lot of times that I thought about quitting fighting and giving up, and I don't want to be that guy that dies with these dreams in the tank,
Mm,
you know.
yeah.
And that's everybody's motivated by money because I mean, my boss says it best. The owner of Elite says it best. He's like, look, man, money's not everything, but next to air, it's the most important thing in life because it buys food and water, and you
Yeah.
got to have both of those to live. So, anytime you can make more money and anytime you can live out dreams, man, and nobody says, hey, I'm not talking smack to any promotion at all, but whenever you ask somebody where they want to fight, what does everybody say?
UFC.
The UFC. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean that's as simple as it gets for me, man. Is just everybody wants to be in the UFC, man, and you know now I have the knowledge of what it's like to fight for them, and I'll say this, being pretty open, man, is a lot of people want that problem until they get it. You know what I mean? And then they can't handle it. And it's one of those things where I let that affect me this past time. I let, the thought of me not training as much as I should have in that time between my title defense and then showing up to that contender fight. And then the hustle and bustle of trying to get caught up to be able to fight, doing the medicals, the publicity, all that stuff. And I think that I handled it well last time. I think that, with the rush that everything was, because those guys had already been there for a week that were fighting on that. I was the guy coming in last and they were rushing to get everything done for me. I think I handled that well, and I know where I belong now.
Yeah.
And it's time to start charting that course back.
So what is that? That's my last question. What is that chart? How many wins are you away from getting back in? What's the big steps, I guess, now to get there?
Well, I don't know right now. You don't know the UFC. You're not nobody's in a tight relationship with them unless you're at the very top. You know what I mean?
Oh,
I
yeah.
know even the guys that are signed with them, they have to offer them 3 fights a year, I think. But they don't. I mean, they don't reach out to talk to you, man, unless they got to fight for you. You know what I mean? They're not like, hey, what's in your plans? They're not asking you about your family. You know what I mean? And they probably do. I don't know. I don't know all that well yet, but it went from conversation to zero as soon as I lost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know that we're like the Contender Series is like the minor leagues for them. You know what I mean? So I get that, but I don't know right now. All I know is I got to win.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Every win that I get again, I stepped up for them. I'm hoping that they'll scratch my back whenever I pick up another win or another 2 wins. But I know that I'm not stopping until I'm back there and I win and I'm in.
And that's awesome. Well, we really enjoyed watching your fight on the Contender Series. Like I said, me and my kids both, we all really enjoyed it. We're rooting for you, another Kentucky guy. Not a lot of well known Kentucky guys in the UFC right now. So the state is cheering for you as well. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us. Thank you for sharing your story and everything that's going on. And we'll keep cheering for you. February the 27th in Bowling Green, hrmma.com. If you're in the area and want to attend. And then is there a way people can catch it? Is it through hrmma.com that people can watch it as well?
So basically, guys, just give me a follow on Instagram at hurricane_Hunsucker. Give me a follow on Instagram, and then I'll post the details on there because they'll give me a link closer to time for the pay-per-view after the event sells out. So just give me a follow on my social media. You'll get to see, my training pictures of my kids, my animals, me teaching martial arts classes. You'll get to see all kinds of cool stuff, and then you'll get to keep the details on the fight too.
That's great. We'll put that in the podcast notes as well, where you can find them on Instagram there. Harry, thank you so much for taking time to be with us. I sure appreciate you talking to us on your drive, and good luck tonight training. Have fun.
Thanks, man. Have a good night.
All right. We'll see you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Big thanks to Harry Hurricane Hunsucker for being with us today. Some technical difficulties there on his drive to his next training, but I sure appreciate him coming through and being there for us again. Started to say this a few times throughout the program, but we're also sponsored by Blue Coolers. At Blue Coolers, they provide high-quality roto-molded 10-day ice coolers, drinkware, and other outdoor products. Some have called them the Yeti Killer. They aim to provide high-quality performance products at a fraction of the price of the leading brands, and their products are rugged, durable, heavily insulated, and come with a 5-year warranty. That's Blue Coolers. We'll put a link for them as well in the notes, podcast notes, and in the comment section on YouTube. And then don't forget about Skull Candy as well. If you're looking for headphones, earbuds, true wireless earbuds, by the way, speakers, and more, we'll post a link for them as well. We had a great time talking the MMA, and until next time, we will see you around the sports stove.